Have you ever looked at a plate of spaghetti, its glossy strands piled high, and wondered where it truly comes from? Not just the factory or the kitchen, but the real story behind this humble dish that has found its way onto dinner tables around the world. Perhaps you've imagined golden fields of wheat or bustling kitchens filled with the aroma of simmering sauce. But have you ever paused to consider the origins of the pasta itself and the stories people once told about it? Today, most of us know that spaghetti is made from simple ingredients, flour and water, mixed, kneaded and shaped by machines in vast factories. It's a process that seems almost mundane, a far cry from the magic we might wish for in our food. Yet, not so long ago, people in Britain were captivated by a far more enchanting idea. That spaghetti grew on trees, swaying gently in the breeze of the Swiss countryside, waiting to be picked like fruit at the height of spring. Imagine the scene. Farmers, dressed in their Sunday best, carefully plucking long, delicate strands of pasta from the branches, laying them out to dry in the warm sun and gathering them into baskets as if they were the most precious of crops. This wasn't a tale whispered among children or a joke passed around the playground. It was a story delivered with the utmost seriousness by the trusted voices of British television, broadcast into living rooms across the nation. For one unforgettable evening, families gathered around their flickering television sets, eyes wide with wonder, as they watched the incredible spaghetti harvest unfold before them. Thousands believed, if only for a moment, in the magic of the spaghetti tree. Our story begins with this delightfully absurd premise, a tale that blurs the line between fact and fiction, revealing the power of television, the trust we place in storytellers, and the irresistible charm of a well-crafted fib. So let's journey back to a time before the internet, before instant fact-checking, to a Britain where imagination reigned and the world was just a little more magical, a place where, for one night, the spaghetti tree was real. To truly understand how this remarkable hoax unfolded, we need to immerse ourselves in the world of 1950s Britain, a time that feels almost like another universe compared to today. Imagine cobblestone streets bustling with people in hats and overcoats, the air filled with the sounds of trolley bells and distant laughter. The Second World War was still a fresh memory, shaping the way people thought, trusted and lived their daily lives. Life was simpler, routines were cherished, and the pace of change was slow. Most families gathered in the evenings around the radio, or for the lucky few, the new television set. News and entertainment came from just a handful of trusted sources. There was no internet, no social media, and very little skepticism about what was broadcast into living rooms. Television itself was a marvel, a window to the world that felt almost magical. The BBC, in particular, was more than just a broadcaster. It was a national institution, respected and revered. People trusted the BBC as they would a family doctor or a wise neighbour, believing that what they saw and heard was always the truth. When the BBC spoke, the nation listened. Its voice carried authority, and its presenters were seen as the very embodiment of honesty and reliability. The idea that the BBC would ever joke, mislead, or play tricks on its audience was simply unthinkable. The broadcaster's reputation for seriousness was ironclad. So, on the evening of April 1st, 1957, families across Britain tuned into the BBC, expecting nothing but the truth. They trusted that what they were about to see would be factual, informative, and above all, sincere. The BBC's reputation for accuracy and integrity was the very foundation that made the infamous spaghetti tree prank possible. Without that deep well of trust, the hoax would never have worked. The audience was eager to learn, open to new information, and never suspected that they might be taught a lesson in silliness instead of science. This deep, almost unshakable trust in the messenger turned a clever idea into a legendary moment in television history, one that would be remembered and retold for generations. The stage was perfectly set for one of television's greatest pranks, a moment when the world's most trusted broadcaster would pull off a joke that fooled an entire nation. The hoax aired on Panorama, the BBC's flagship current affairs show. Hosted by Richard Dimbleby, Britain's most trusted broadcaster, the segment looked and sounded like a real documentary. Black and white footage showed Swiss families harvesting spaghetti from trees, drying it in the alpine sun. Dimbleby's narration explained the bountiful crop and even mentioned the threat of the spaghetti weevil. Every detail was delivered with deadpan seriousness. There were no hints, no winks, just a perfectly crafted imitation of factual reporting. The genius was in the mundane, the most trusted people on the most trusted show, presenting the most unbelievable story. And the nation believed. After the broadcast, Britain was bewildered. Many accepted the story at face value. Spaghetti grew on trees, why not? Others were skeptical, but the BBC's authority made them question their doubts. The BBC's switchboard was flooded with calls. Was it true? How could they grow their own spaghetti tree? The best response: place a sprig of spaghetti in a tin of tomato sauce and hope for the best. The hoax revealed the public's innocence and trust, but also their curiosity. It sparked debates, laughter, and a genuine desire to learn more. The spaghetti tree wasn't just watched, it was experienced. The public's reaction made the prank legendary. It was a national moment of shared confusion and delight. In 1950s Britain, spaghetti was exotic and unfamiliar. Most people had never eaten it. If they had, it was likely tinned and mushy. British cuisine was still recovering from wartime austerity. Pasta was a foreign novelty. Few knew how spaghetti was made, so the idea of it growing on trees didn't seem impossible. The BBC's prank filled a gap in public knowledge, making the unbelievable believable. The hoax introduced millions to spaghetti in the most memorable way. Suddenly everyone was talking about pasta. The fictional spaghetti tree may have done more to popularize Italian food in Britain than any cookbook. It made an exotic dish feel magical and approachable. The hoax was the brainchild of Charles de Jager, a BBC cameraman inspired by a childhood joke. He pitched the idea to Panorama's editor, Michael Peacock, who saw its mischievous potential. With a modest budget, de Jager travelled to Switzerland, draped spaghetti on trees and filmed local women harvesting it. But the real coup was getting Richard Dimbleby to narrate. Dimbleby's gravitas made the prank utterly convincing. The film was a masterpiece of low-budget creativity and deadpan delivery. Every detail was crafted to look authentic. The combination of de Jager's vision, Peacock's approval, and Dimbleby's authority created TV history. The prank was destined to become legendary. It was a perfect storm of creativity and trust. The day after, the BBC revealed the truth. It was an April Fool's joke. The public's reaction was mostly laughter and good-natured embarrassment. The prank became the talk of the country, a shared joke everyone could enjoy. It set a new standard for April Fool's pranks, turning them into national media events. The spaghetti tree story entered folklore, a classic example of TV's power and the public's gullibility. Even BBC executives were fooled, checking encyclopedias for confirmation. The hoax became a point of pride for the BBC and a case study in media trust. Decades later, it's still remembered as one of the greatest pranks of all time. The spaghetti tree hoax had a lasting impact. It changed how audiences viewed broadcasters, planting the first seeds of skepticism. The prank was an early lesson in media literacy. Don't believe everything you see, even from trusted sources. It transformed April Fool's Day into a public spectacle, inspiring elaborate media hoaxes worldwide. The story became a beloved part of British culture, celebrated for its dry, absurd humour. It united the nation in laughter and curiosity. The hoax's legacy is about more than media trust. It's about the power of a good story. It reminds us of a time when a harmless prank could bring people together. The spaghetti tree harvest became a charming piece of modern folklore. Today, the spaghetti tree hoax feels like a relic from a more innocent era, a time when families would gather around the television, trusting what they saw and heard. The world seemed simpler, and the boundaries between fact and fiction were easier to spot, or so it seemed. In 1957, trusted media gatekeepers shaped reality. The BBC and newspapers were seen as pillars of truth, and their word carried enormous weight. Newsrooms were bustling with journalists dedicated to accuracy, and the public relied on them to filter out the noise. But today, the landscape has shifted dramatically. Information is everywhere, on our phones, computers, and even in our pockets, and so is misinformation, spreading faster than ever before. The original prank was harmless, designed to amuse, not deceive for gain or division. It was a playful wink to the audience, a reminder not to take everything at face value, but also not meant to sow confusion or mistrust. The laughter it sparked was genuine, shared by viewers who could appreciate the joke. Today's hoaxes can be malicious, spreading fear and eroding trust in ways that were unimaginable back then. False stories can go viral in minutes, reaching millions and causing real-world harm. The line between satire and manipulation has blurred, making it harder to know what to believe. The spaghetti tree was revealed with a laugh. It was a moment of collective amusement, a shared cultural wink. But modern misinformation lingers, festering in online echo chambers and fueling division. The consequences are no longer just a chuckle. They can shape opinions, influence elections, and even threaten public safety. The story remains important, a benchmark for playful deception versus dangerous disinformation. It stands as a reminder of how easily we can be fooled, but also how harmless a joke can be when it's rooted in good intentions. It reminds us to think critically, question what we see, and keep our sense of humor. In a world overflowing with information, skepticism is a valuable tool, but so is the ability to laugh at ourselves and our own gullibility. The world has changed, but the lesson endures. Technology has transformed how we share stories, but the need for discernment and a light-hearted spirit remains as vital as ever. A good story can unite or divide. How we respond is up to us. We can choose to come together in laughter or let misinformation drive us apart. The power lies in our collective response, in our willingness to question, to learn, and to connect. The spaghetti tree harvest is a call to stay curious, skeptical, and always ready to laugh. In a world where truth and fiction often blur, perhaps the best defense is a sharp mind and a good sense of humor.